Well, the channel is 1 year old now, so for this special occasion, I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my Veiled Souls episodes. Today, I'm going to be covering the animation, the modeling, the voice acting, so get comfy. Okay, so the first step to every video for me is the ideas. Every time I just go out on a walk, I just brainstorm ideas. I think of new characters, the side plots, and pretty much what's going to happen in each episode. I know all of this down, and it just really helps me out when I'm writing the scripts. I would say the script writing is probably the most important process of the series, and I have an amazing co-writer that actually helps out each time. But as you guys know, the story follows the game lore, but it also has two storylines. So it's got the present day with an older Henry, and it's also got the past storyline with like William and the whole pizzeria. I definitely find it harder writing the present storyline because that doesn't follow the game lore. That's all my own story and my imagination. So I kind of have to come up with what's going to happen, all the characters are made up apart from Henry. So I have to try and flesh them out in my scripts as well. But yeah, my main goal with the characters is to flesh them out. I often do this by having them like crack jokes, also like explaining their past in dialogue and stuff. And then in the past storyline, my focus was to have William get more and more deranged with each episode. So in episode 1, we see him as a grieving father. And then in episode 2, we see him sort of like disconnect from reality. He doesn't acknowledge the death of his son. He just focuses on his anger with Michael. Then he pushes Henry away, his best friend, and as the series goes on, he's only going to get worse. But yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts that go in when I'm writing the scripts. Now comes the very hard part, which is the voice actors. Now I know many people struggle with voice actors, like finding them, because I used to as well. And I got very lucky with finding mine, but pretty much the process I take is I go on Discords that like specialise in voice acting, and you can do like casting calls where you send in the script, you state what you want, male or female role, blah blah blah. And I basically did that until I found the right matches. And then came the casting, where I had to try and figure out exactly what voices I wanted for the characters. So for William, I knew I wanted like someone with like quite a raspy and menacing voice that could also shout a lot and just show his anger. And then for the Henry character, I wanted someone that could seem like happy and joyful, but also quite like depressed and miserable for like the older Henry. Another thing I did was when writing the scripts, I had little notes on the side that pretty much told the voice actors what was happening in the scene and what the characters would be feeling. And this made such a big difference. The performances were so much more genuine and overall just better. So now for the fun part, which was making the environments. And I have to admit, I suck at modelling, so it was actually quite hard. And I definitely had a lot of people help me out because it was just a case of looking at a lot of references. For example, William's living room, where I was on the phone call, that I just looked at tons of references of like 80s living rooms to try and like capture the 80s feel. And there's a lot of like Sketchfab models and Blender kit models put in there. I think most 3D artists know how hard it is to get human models, so that was definitely the hardest process for me, because I had this human generator add-on, but for the lip syncing you had to buy something that was like a monthly subscription, and then also the facial expressions really weren't that good. So what I did the next best thing that any sane person would do, and bought a £800 bundle with some softwares that could help me do this. Yeah, so I think it's safe to say I made a big investment in this project, but it all paid off because the softwares are really good and I couldn't do any of this without them. So in Character Creator 4, while making William, I knew I wanted him to look menacing, obviously, so I just really tried to achieve that look, and I think it did work really well with the model. Same with Henry, I wanted a certain look for Henry. I wanted him to look quite nice, like friendly, like a welcoming kind of guy, and that really worked as well. Next, it was time for the lip syncing. So what I did was I imported all the voice actors' lines into like an editing software, and I moved them all about, made them flow, made the dialogue seem natural. Then I exported each line of dialogue as a separate MP3, and then I imported that into the iClone 8 software, which is for the animation. and pretty much what I do is it just makes the character speak it pretty much, but it's just a blank canvas. You have to do all the facial animations. It's purely just the mouth talking. So what I did for the character's facial animations is there's a tool called the puppet tool, where what you can do is it's all like real-time movement with the mouse. So if you move the mouse up, for example, the character's eyebrows will move up. So I had to keyframe that all manually. Then the final step was to just put this all together in Blender. Luckily iClone 8 had an add-on for Blender that lets you import the characters, so I just had to put them in the scene, put them in position. Then I had to like animate their bodies, which you all know I suck at animating bodies, so it was trial and error. It was just a lot of messing around with keyframing. Then it was time to add the cameras in the scene, and I use a preset in Blender that makes the cameras look more cinematic. I then added like a camera shake, so it makes it look more realistic, like a handheld cinematic camera. Then I had to do the depth of field, so I made the ratio 2, and then I adjusted the f-stop so the background was blurred, and it made it look really cinematic. But if the scene had 2 characters speaking, I had to have like markers on the cameras, so each time another character started speaking, it could switch to that camera, and it was like switching between cameras pretty much. And then at last, all that was left was the lighting. So what I did was add like a backlight to the character, then just did some like area lights around the character as well to light up their face. But I also wanted their face to be contrasted, because you never wanted a character's face to be like just flat light on their face. You want there to be depth, just like spots of darkness to really like make their features more obvious. And then finally I press render. Then, after months of making clips, I can put them all into Premiere Pro, either add non-copyrighted music, or I make my own soundtracks in GarageBand or FL Studio. But pretty much during the editing, I just do like colour correction to some scenes. I also do like sound design. Then I go render a thumbnail for the video, and then that's it. The episode is ready. That is my workflow. It's obviously not perfect, but with each episode I do, I improve. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time.